Hey Gaijingaigers, this is going to be a very short but sweet video on OTOMO Katsuhiro. It's not a full background or anything like that. I'm just going to go through some of my own personal thoughts and feelings about the man. And the reason that I'm doing this is because even though in Tokyo, the first two volumes of the OTOMO Katsuhiro collection, full collection, are out in Tokyo, we still have a couple of days here in the boonies before we can get our dirty little hands on them. So I'm just gonna talk about my own personal experiences with his work. All right, let's get started. So first of all, of course, Akira is the first thing that I ever heard of done by him. And I first heard of it probably before the last volume came out. I'm not 100% sure, but a friend of mine who was in college, and by that time I was probably in my first year of college. So a friend of mine named Jim was a big manga and anime and, you know, in US comics too, a big fan. And he had roommates who were also interested in music and comics, and we would all hang out and watch Japanese animation together. And I would borrow a bunch of comics from them, often more sophisticated stuff than I was getting, because at the time I was getting more humor and horror, and that's about it. And they were into a little bit more, you know, cerebral stuff, like Mr. X and Watchmen when that came out. Gotham by Gaslight, Arkham Asylum. And we were all into the Japanese stuff, but I don't remember who owned them, but they had the Akira original volumes, collected volumes on the shelf. And I remember flipping through those and thinking they were pretty tight. And then the animation came out, and through their network of anime fans, one of them is the esteemed Dave Merrill, who still continues to be a great educator and spreader of old Showa anime knowledge on his blog Let's Anime. Anyway, through one of the people connected, we were able to see the animated movie, and it just blew our collective minds away. Everything, the sound, the visuals, it was crazy. At the time, I was probably the only one who understood Japanese, but also at that time my Japanese was not good enough that I could understand everything in that movie. I probably understood about 50% of the dialogue. Like anything that had like an official sounding title, I probably couldn't quite get. But all your more conversational talk, I could probably understand. So I remember watching that and just being blown away. I remember specific scenes, like the way that the tail lights were animated so that they left these trails as they moved. I thought that was not only reminiscent of the comic, but also just visually very exciting stuff. And then a little while later, they actually brought that movie over to America with US actors. And so the movie, that animated movie, and Nausicaa were probably for most of the anime fans of my generation, like those two were the big ones that really made people sit up and notice. However, Epic, which was a subsidiary of Marvel, was already doing some interesting experimental stuff with comics. They had published some translated editions of Mobius. I actually don't know the timeline if that was first or later than this, but as these came out, I was buying them until I ran out of money and was really poor. And so my collection was not very complete. But after I moved to Japan, I actually got a hold of the full set of the released US comics that were sold in Japan by Kodansha. It says right here, Gyaku Yunyu, so re-imported back from the USA. And even at the time, they're saying it's Marvel. Not that anybody besides super nerds who knew who the hell Marvel was. But these boxed editions that came with like 3 or 4 issues in each were pretty nice. You can take a quick look. Colored and translated, and everything's flipped. So at the time, translated stuff was flipped because the target was people who were used to reading US comics, not used to reading Japanese comics. And so it was an introduction, like this is how awesome Japanese comics are, and y'all should take a look. So the idea, of course, was to reduce that barrier as much as possible. And I think they did a really good job. It's definitely not just translated, but edited and written by somebody who knows how to write for comics. So when I look at translations, this is what I hold them up to often. Because I think a lot of translations these days depend on the fact that readers know comics, like Japanese comics, quite well. And, that's not always the case. But I think, even as long as people are willing to jump in, I don't think that there's as much of a barrier, even if they don't quite get how to read Japanese comics at first, you just get used to it. It was the same for me. The first time I read a Japanese comic, I did not know how to read the panel sequence order at all. So, but at the time, the idea was reducing any kind of obstacle for new fans to check out. And of course, word of mouth spread. And I know that Otomo himself was responsible for overseeing the coloring and the flipping and everything. So, everything was done with his approval. Just like he took charge of the animated film. I don't know the backstory of that. I'm just saying that I know that he directed it. But yeah, it was his baby, and he wanted to make sure that when it went across the ocean, that it was still something that he'd be proud to put his name on. And I really respect that kind of dedication. What these box sets came with was this bilingual booklet, which is great because it has the English and the Japanese side by side. This is great for somebody studying either language, for a casual thing. I wouldn't want to pore over it, but like after them, that's great, So, really cool to have in each box set of this. I have all 12 of the box sets. I had always assumed that was the whole story because actually I never read the original Japanese. This is one of the few things you'll see on this channel where I've only read the English and have not read the Japanese. It is something that I plan to do, but I want to do it as a project, like reading the Japanese and read it with somebody who's reading the new translated version, and maybe do it as a podcast project. So that's going to come down the line. As we all know, I'm just going to give you a little bit of taste. I thought the coloring of the early issues was quite dark and harder to read, and it gets better quickly. So very high quality stuff. Obviously, if you've been reading Japanese comics a long time, you probably appreciate black and white art because a lot of work is put into the fact that they're not in color. And so there's a lot of compensation with techniques and tone and to kind of make up for that difference. I think we can all pretty much guess that at the beginning of comics creation, it was, like where the budget goes, and it was not going to be in color printing. Cheap paper, black and white. The reason that color pages were sometimes used, and I don't mean like full color pages, I mean like blue pages with black ink, or pink pages with black ink, or etc., was because that paper was cheaper, especially when there was, a shortage of paper or something like that. So, groundbreaking stuff. I found, I knew about Akira post Mabius. So, I was reading heavy metal. I saw the heavy metal movie. I didn't necessarily knew Mabius's name, Mabius or Mobius. It's, I don't know how to pronounce it. I've been calling him Mabius for years. But anywho, so I knew that the form could definitely support some gorgeous artwork. And so I was really pleased to see this in a Japanese medium. So that's basically, that was my experience with Akira. And then even before I moved to Japan, I came across this work, DOMU, Childhood Dream, as it's translated as. And I did not come across it in this format. I came across this at a Chinese rental bookshop, basically a kashihonya. But I could not grasp the concept at the time. I just couldn't understand what was going on. First of all, there was no signs in English anyway. It wasn't really for the bikeway, for the whiteys to come in and rent stuff, because a lot of this stuff was not legally translated or created anyway. So I just saw a price tag on it, and so I bought this pirated Chinese edition of DOMU for the amazing art. And I remember flipping through it, and all of the dramatic scenes that had huge impact on me, of course, I think would have shocked anyone. It just blew me away, It just, the shock of it, the trauma of it. I had no idea what the story was. I didn't know what a danchi was. I just knew it was a big old apartment building. you know, I couldn't read everything. This doesn't have that very convenient furigana, you know, the ruby on the side of kanji, so I couldn't read it. But like scenes like this, just what in the heck, you know, just blew me away. And it's like I'm not, and it was shocking because like I don't really like the grotesque stuff, but I read and watch a lot of horror, so I appreciate it without like enjoying it necessarily. I enjoy the shock of it just because it's necessary to the story, and it did shock the crap out of me. And I didn't quite figure out what was going on, but I did eventually realize that we're dealing with psychics. And I had already seen a very shocking movie called The Fury, and in that, immature psychics who don't have control of their emotions basically like murder people with their psychic powers when they, you know, originally not bad people, but raised well. But then, you know, when power, when they get the taste of that power, it just, you know, it makes them go beyond, you know, the same syndrome that everyone in Star Trek that gets godlike powers ends up dealing with is, you know. So this was another scene where the art just like blew me away, and I realized that, you know, this kind of technical idea, just visually so amazing, and you can feel the pressure. But this is the scene that stuck with me forever because, you know, this is somebody who's reaching out to help her, and she doesn't mean to hurt him, but she's just like, you know, no, don't come near me, and he just splits right in half. Oh my gosh, that scene stuck with me forever. And so eventually, when I did come to Japan, I did grab a copy of this. So you might be wondering if I'm going to get the complete collection with this in it, and the answer is yes, I am, because it's going to be in a larger format, and I want to read it in a larger format. So I'm not even going to reread this size. I'm going to reread it in a larger format and do a review. So that was DOMU. And DOMU is probably my favorite. So when I heard the news of these complete works coming out, I was like, I don't know, because honestly, when Steam Boy came out, I was so excited, and so underwhelmed by it. Honestly, I thought the visuals were awesome, but it just didn't grab me, you know. But, you know, Akira still remained a favorite. I remember getting this, and I liked having this on my shelf, looking through just the technical genius. And I like seeing art that I had never seen before. And I like seeing the close-ups of these just technical marvels, just amazing stuff. So then, fast forward a couple years. Don't remember exactly what year this was, but there was a huge exhibition of OTOMO's original art, the original comic art. And it had every page of Akira, plus a whole ton of his original art for his early comics. And I'm going to be honest that, I think up until Akira, he was very like hungry. He was just burning with creativity and like passion for the comic form, even anger. I feel a lot of anger in his work, things that he was rebelling against, pushing against. And I think that's what I really respond to in his work. And so after he'd kind of made it and become quite successful, for me personally, I didn't feel that same level of passion and anger that I think I most enjoyed. But when I was looking at those earlier works from the 70s and 80s, I was like, yes, this is unfiltered, unadulterated. This is what I like from this creator. So this exhibition actually introduced me to a bunch of works by him that I didn't know about. First of all, I didn't know that he had been creating this early on. But I decided to dig this out because I wanted to know, should I get the full set of his works? And no, I'm not going to get the full set because I'm probably not very interested in getting the live action script or storyboards for Mushishi or some of the other stuff, but I'm very interested in getting the reprints of a lot of this early work for sure. So looking through this kind of made up my mind for me, and I decided, yeah, I am gonna get a good chunk of these, and it's not gonna bother me that I might have holes in my collection. I'm not gonna try to collect all the seals just to get this special gift, I don't think. So, I think it's better to tell myself that right now so that I don't pressure myself into getting the whole damn thing. Honestly, I wasn't thinking about getting the storyboards, the Akira storyboards, and you know what got me? I talked to my Tsutaya guy, a good friend of mine, a big fan, there's Steamboy, a big fan of science fiction, basically increased science fiction readership in this area by several factors, just by putting out a free paper introducing people to different science fiction works and such. Here's something. When I open this up, this is actually the sticker that was on the plastic here. I've never opened this. I've never opened this. So let's open it up together. Right? Why not? Let's open it up together. This was a collaboration with the design company Beams. Guys, don't give me too much grief about how I'm opening this. I'm just gonna try to be as careful as I can. Okay, open. I know I got some postcards. I bought some postcards, but I have no idea where those postcards are. What is in here? I don't even know. You guys excited? I'm excited. Ooh, stickers. Oh, wow. Let's take a look. There, the bike. Robot Carnival. I remember seeing this. I liked this very much. So this is one of the things post Akira that I was very excited about. Oh, there we go, DOMU. Wow, great. Great stuff. Let's zoom in a little bit. Nice. So there you have it. So my story is not 100% finished. I do have a little bit of an epilogue. I I used to go to a yearly, it was like an annual, I think once or twice they did it, twice in a year, but it was like an annual fanzine event. It was the Comitia event, but I'm just going to zoom in because I don't have anything else to show. It was the Comitia event, and they always have some special guests. And I always went to kind of the after dinner because I met some of my favorite European and Japanese artists at the after dinner. So yeah, because basically the Comitia would combine the regular fanzine event with a overseas comics festival event. So those were kind of put together. I would join and I would sell my American comics sound effect dictionary. It would sell out. I would be very happy about that. My other work didn't sell as well, but those sold. So I rarely went home with less money than I spent on my works. So at this after dinner, guess who was there? OTOMO was there. And so I got to meet him, and I talked to him, and I told him that I'd been to this event. And he was not happy. He seemed perturbed. And I was really close to saying, what happened, man? Where'd all your anger and passion go? But I did not say that. But he told me that he was frustrated with how everybody only focuses on what he's made so far, and they don't really keep up with what he's doing now. And I did not say, that's because what you're doing now isn't exciting people as much. So I did not say that, but that's how I honestly felt. But anyway, I got to meet the man, took a picture with him, and it's probably one of my most visited blog posts from my mostly defunct blog. But that's kind of the end to my story. But I'm ready to rediscover OTOMO Katsuhiro's early works and his amazing art. I can't wait to see DOMU in the bigger print edition with the added colors and everything. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. I think next time what I'm going to do is a manga haul with all the amazing stuff that I have either bought or was donated to me over the past couple months. So I hope you're excited for that. I'm excited for doing it. I'd like to thank everybody who has joined the channel and has kept up with it, who's shared and liked, and especially those who comment. Man, I really appreciate you guys. I wouldn't do this, really, if I didn't think there was at least 2 other people who thought, who thought what I was doing was worthwhile and wanted to have a conversation about it. And you guys have been much more than that. And so, thanks a bunch. And I'll see you next time.